Hey, what's up? Glad we found each other. Welcome to the channel and staying each other good energy. The first thing I want to talk about is alignment because I reference that a lot, like being in line, and having self in line. And, I see self as three parts: the body, the mind, and the spirit. And then you have, the most high, which where we all came from, the universe. If it's God or whatever it is to you, then I think it's kind of all the same, but I reference the universe. Now, I have this formula and I want, opinions on it. And it goes body in line with mind, mind in line with spirit, spirit in line with the universe. Now, I don't think there's no particular order. I think it all depends on where you at on your path. But to go into more detail about, which each one means, like when I say spirit in line with the universe, to me, that's having knowledge of self, which is like, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? What Whether that's a career, whether that's just what is it? A hobby, your art. What is your purpose? What is that thing that I'm meant here to do? That service I'm supposed to provide to humanity that will make me feel accomplished and make me feel good doing it. And I think you get there, and how I got there. You know, you can take the path of religions. You know what I'm saying? I've studied a few religions. I'm a 5%er. I grew up Christian. I've read up on the Buddhist, and I just like studying different religions, and they all come to the same thing. They all come back to some of the same points. We can go deeper into that later. And I also astrology. Astrology was a path that I took during my birth chart, and I've heard people disagree with it. I just heard a cat named Smackwater from Houston. I listened to him, smart dude, and he just trashed astrology. He trashed it, and he had some good points about how the months. There was certain months that are made up and things like that. And I haven't studied it for myself, so I don't like to speak on it. But I think once enough people put power and belief into something, it makes it real. It makes it real. I'm writing a book to where I say a quote that I have that I made up was like, Santa Claus is just as real as Jesus, you know, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's like once you put a certain belief into something and a certain amount of your imagination into something, it becomes reality on this plane. And just like people have bashed Jesus and saying what's impossible and what doesn't make sense, and that, you say the same thing about Santa Claus. But you know, it's like what you put your imagination into, and what are you using it for? And that was one of the things that made me step away from, like, the Muslims and the 5%ers, is because we spent so much time discrediting everything else, you know. And like I say, I grew up Christian. My grandmothers, they're still Christian. I still respect the Bible, you know. And I don't think none of us really know. I think if we all admit that we don't know what's going to happen after and what came before, and stop trying to give ourselves some kind of entitlement, we'll be a little better. Because at the end, it's like, treat the next person how you want to be treated. But back to that, Santa Claus and Jesus thing. you know it's like the 5%ers wanted me to, like, renounce. I was supposed to go and tell my granny it ain't no Jesus and all of that is fake and all of that. And I might not practice Christianity. I don't go to church, but I respect it. And if you was to ask me, I would say the power of prayer has saved me plenty of times. My grandmothers and aunties and mama praying to Jesus, yeah, that's probably saved me and gave me some good energy, you know. And who am I to go crush that? That's just like me, telling my toddler, telling my son or any kid, oh, it ain't no Santa Claus or there is no superheroes. All of that is fake and all of that is not. Now it does come a point of in time to where it's like you can put too much belief into anything. And I do think, some people do that with religion as well when it comes to like it's cool to believe in something, but you also have to know that, you know, you're not just gonna sit and believe something and stuff is gonna turn around for you. Just like I'll expect my son to one day understand that, okay, that's what these superheroes and doing and Santa Claus is just physically not possible, and it's not real physically, but the spirit of it is cool. You know what I'm saying? I still go watch movies. I still have imagination, and I'm not just sitting in the movie. I know it's not real, but that's not on my mind at the time. So it's like, you just learn how to respect everything and put everything in place and know what works for you. And so now okay, so I was talking about spirit in line with the universe. Okay. Um, Now mind in line with the spirit. Like after it's like getting control of this mind. We have to get in control of our mind. First, I'm just going to talk about our mind and emotional discipline. It's like that's like dealing with your traumas. That's doing your shadow work. That's how you get your mind all the way right. You know, and you in line that with the spirit so you can start making your plans. So you can start, searching the information and just understanding your flaws and understanding how your mind works and why you do certain things that you do. And again, I'm big into the astrology. I think it's some truth in it, but it helped me recognize my flaws, my ways of thinking, and what causes those ways of thinking. And just going back into how I was raised and what I held on to and what I need to let go to help me plan better, to help me get more in line with my spirit, with my purpose. And it's like, okay, I avoid doing these things. You know what I'm saying? I do this too much, and which takes us to the body, the body being in line with the mind. Because once the mind is clear and we have a plan, we got a set plan. And it's like, okay, I know what my purpose is. I know what it takes to get there. Now I just got to make this body do it. Now I got to make this body get up and actually do the work. Or I got to get this body to serve me and not serve itself, because the body will serve itself. And that's where addiction comes from. Whether it's food, whether it's drugs, alcohol, attention, sex, the body, when the body is on autopilot and the body is just doing what the body wants, that's been some of the darkest and worst places in my life. And it's like the mind to be telling you. And that's one of the darkest places you can be, where in your mind you're like, I know I don't want to do this no more. I said I wasn't gonna do this no more, but I'm still doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's that's what discipline is. I think that's what sacrifice is. Like I say, being with the Muslims, they talked about And I don't mean to bash the Muslims. They had a lot of good things going as far as with family and stuff like that, but it was just the bashing of everything and the self entitlement. Like, all these people over here are devils and we the God. And I honestly believe that we're both, everybody is God and the devil. And if there had to be a part of us that was the devil, I would say it'd be this body, you know, like getting control over this body. But us as man, we can build or destroy. So I don't go looking for, outside things, or can't go blaming people. That's why you got to understand and do your own work and do your own shadow work and figure out the flaws in your personality and figure out your purpose and how you align with that purpose. And hopefully, this stuff, that made some sense. And I'm just trying to I'm just trying to give back. And I'm, trying to help a lot of dudes like myself who were out of line with our purpose, who were, living a certain kind of way. You're trying to bring it all back, trying to find your way back to like what is your purpose. And, your purpose is not just how much fun you can have. That's nobody's purpose. You got to serve man. You got to provide some kind of service to man in some kind of way. And I'm looking forward to people's comments, people's information. Whether you disagree, whether you agree, any kind of information you have, for me. And I'll just tune in and just bear with me. The content will get better. I'll get better, have more structure, but I just had to get out here and do it. And I'm gonna keep doing it. Hopefully we grow together. All I need is a few. All I need is a few people to, grow with and get there. But yeah, until later, man. We chop up some more game later.